Alright, y'all, we back. Gonna watch this video of this conference, this press conference that came out today involving Hunter Biden and his father, President Joe Biden. It's going down. It's going down in the White House. A few days, I believe, after Trump said he was going to run for presidency again. Republicans, I believe, take over the House. And now this investigation, we're going to get into it, see what they're talking about. It's titled Hunter Biden Probe Launched by GOP. Joe Biden lied to Americans. Alrighty then. It's about 40 minutes, 35 minutes long. Probably gonna watch like half of it. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all that, comment, tell a friend, tell a friend, to tell a friend. Like I stated previously, I like to start doing these live, just to have dialogue back and forth regarding these matters. I think it's something interesting to talk about. I'm not too involved in politics. I would like to know more, and I think having dialogue, can help with that. I'm gonna get into this video. I'm just trying to set up this live. This live. This live. This live. Y'all bear with me. Feel me? Y'all bear with me. Patience, me friends. Patience. Feel me? Bozos. Alright, I think that's good. We're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into it. Got my phone, got the video. Make sure everything going right. Feel me? Then we're gonna get into it. Go ahead and start this up.
Here. All right, we want to thank everyone for coming out today.
All right, that might be a little loud.
Today we're going to provide you with something that you all aren't used to with respect to congressional investigations, and that's evidence. Committee Republicans have spoken with multiple whistleblowers from numerous schemes involving the Biden family, reviewed Hunter Biden's laptop, and received documents of previously unknown transactions. What we found were business plans aimed at targets around the world based on intel, including with people closely tied to foreign governments like China and Russia.
Going down in the White House.
We also found plans based in the United States where the Biden family split investors of hundreds of thousands of dollars, all with Joe Biden's participation and knowledge. In 2019, shortly after announcing his campaign for president, Joe Biden told the American people he had nothing to do with and never had conversations with his family about their business dealings. That was a lie. Whistleblowers described President Biden as chairman of the board for these businesses. He personally participated in meetings and phone calls. Documents show that he was a partner with access to an office. To be clear, Joe Biden is the big dog.
Uh-oh.
This evidence raises troubling questions about
President
whether
Joe
President Biden
Biden
is a national security risk and about whether he is compromised by foreign governments. Despite the president's claim that he wasn't involved in Biden family business schemes, these photos show Joe Biden meeting with his family associates while vice president.
You calling somebody out?
Have identified over 50 countries the Biden family sought businesses in. On the international side of the Biden family business, the deals were often led by Hunter Biden. And that map there behind the flag shows all the countries where the Bidens had a footprint in international business dealings.
It's a lot of countries.
The investigation reveals a family that engaged with some of America's most powerful adversaries, planning to sell one of the largest sources of cobalt for electric vehicles in the world to the Chinese, for example. The Bidens flourished and became millionaires by simply offering access to the family. Among the dozens of shell companies the Bidens set up, there were millions of dollars of wire transfers, flights on Air Force Two to conduct personal business, and meetings with heads of state, all while Joe Biden was aware of what was happening. All the while, he turned a blind eye.
All the while.
Many transactions related to these businesses have raised red flags at U.S. banks. A suspicious activity report, or SAR, is a document a bank must file with the Treasury Department when a transaction is suspected to be related to money laundering or fraud or other types of criminal activity. According to media reports, the Biden family accumulated over 150 SARs. One SAR generated by an American bank to the Treasury Department connects Hunter Biden and his business associates to international human trafficking, among other illegal activities. The money that was being made from foreign principals in the same room as Joe Biden.
Hey, everybody knew something was up when he was out here with that video with the crack. Like, what? How this nigga got a video with him with some hookers or somebody? Excuse me if they wasn't. That's with some hookers or somebody. And then crack and all kind of like that man Hunter Biden was wild.
Biden was increasingly
so that's how you knew something was going on. They were trying to cover up some shit. They gonna cover that up. Definitely gonna cover up their laptop.
Activity. The SAR showed that Hunter Biden was conducting business with suspected human traffickers. The money gained through influence peddling was function.
Epstein.
Was funneled to a suspected criminal enterprise. Again, one linked to human trafficking. We have repeatedly called on the Biden Treasury Department to release additional financial documents to committee Republicans, but thus far Treasury has refused. We want to know what the Biden administration is trying to hide from the American people and why they are not being transparent. We also found evidence Hunter Biden sought to evade these SARs using his financial advisor, coincidentally a Clinton administration official. We will continue to pursue all evidence, and specifically the SARs and bank records in the new Congress. As part of our investigation, we have evidence that the finances, credit cards, and bank accounts of Hunter and Joe Biden were commingled, if not shared. And on some accounts, at least, red flags were raised by banks to the account owner or owners indicating suspicious or illegal activity. One of Hunter's closest associates, Eric Sherwin, was accessing Joe Biden's money and writing checks to reimburse Hunter. Sherwin arranged the Biden's international deals around the world. At the same time, he was a frequent visitor to the White House, and Joe Biden during the Obama administration, visiting close to 30 times, and sometimes with international business partners and Hunter, according to Hunter's calendar. Sherwin was also the president of Hunter's company and was appointed by President Obama to a position in the administration. After an apparent falling out with Sherwin, Hunter began coordinating business himself, and increasingly the deals brought in Joe Biden as a direct equity holder. One of these deals involves the sale of American natural gas to China. Evidence suggests Joe Biden had a 10% equity stake through his son. And behind Glenn and Andrew is a map from Hunter's laptop.
I don't know if y'all, I'm not too familiar with what company they're referring to regarding Joe Biden and stocks are having equity in. If y'all do know, please comment, inform me, look it up. I'll probably look into that a little bit, but
this was a PowerPoint presentation
if they say
on his laptop in Chinese that they used in working with the Chinese. Now let's think about this for a second. At a time when Americans are suffering from high energy prices because of this administration's terrible energy policy, we find evidence that Hunter Biden and Joe Biden were involved in a scheme to try to get China to buy liquefied natural gas, and from a whistleblower to try to get their foot in the door with China starting to purchase an interest in natural gas drillers. Now, people are in outrage over China buying farmland in the Dakotas. What about China starting to buy into our American energy industry at a time when we have an energy crisis because of the bad policies of the Biden administration?
And all this other shit going on with China.
Hunter brought in millions of dollars from this deal from entities tied to the Chinese government. In emails obtained by committee Republicans, Hunter wanted keys made for Joe Biden and Jim Biden, his office mate. He provided Joe Biden's personal cell number and called him his partner. The other partners in that deal were two people closely tied to the Chinese Communist Party. And that's the behind Andy and Jim. That's the email where Hunter sent to the landlord requesting keys, and the Chinese partners were on the email, and where he said, you know, Joe would need a key, and he even put Joe's cell phone number on there. Domestically, Jim Biden, Joe Biden's brother, used the Biden name to enrich himself in return for the promise that when Joe Biden became president in 2020, business partners would get rich by having access to a future Biden administration. By promising access to financing through Middle Eastern, Russian, and Chinese connections, he made for Joe Biden, and by bringing his brother Joe Biden onto phone calls, Jim Biden was able to convince companies to give him loans of hundreds of thousands of dollars that he never repaid. The Biden administration has answered none of our requests for information regarding the Biden family or the financial transactions they engaged in. Instead, the Biden administration has spent over $250 million to staff to, quote, deflect Hunter storage. Protecting the president's son who has committed crimes with Americans' tax dollars is a waste. The domestic and international scheme that promised access to wealth in a future Biden administration constitute fraud. And the president's participation in enriching his family is, in a word, abuse of the highest order. Rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse will be the primary goal of a Republican House Oversight Committee.
It's going down.
As such, this investigation will be a top priority. We are releasing a report today that details what we have uncovered. We are also sending letters to the Biden administration officials and Biden family associates renewing our request for voluntary production of documents relevant to this investigation. This is an investigation of Joe Biden, the President of the United States, and why he lied to the American people about his knowledge and participation in his family's international business schemes. National security interests require the committee to conduct investigation, and we will pursue all avenues that have long been ignored. Committee Republicans have uncovered evidence of federal crimes committed by and to the benefit of members of the president's family. These include conspiracy or defrauding the United States, wire fraud, conspiracy to commit wire fraud, violation of the Foreign Agents Registration Act, violations of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, violations of the Trafficking Victims Protection Act, tax evasion, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit money laundering. The Biden family's business dealings implicate a wide range of criminality from human trafficking to potential violations of the Constitution. In the 118th Congress, this committee will evaluate the status of Joe Biden's relationship with his family's foreign partners and whether he is a president who is compromised or swayed by foreign dollars and influence. I want to be clear. This is an investigation of Joe Biden, and that's where the committee will focus in this next Congress. I now turn it over to Oversight Member and the next chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Jim Jordan.
Thank you, Jamie.
That's big. That's big. That's a lot. Kind of confused because it's called Hunter Biden probe, but then he also said, I don't know if it's maybe two investigations that may be taking place. Them looking into what Hunter Biden was doing, and also investigating Joe Biden for all the charges that he was just talking about. I believe that's how I heard it, at least. If y'all heard something different, or if y'all know more information, I can explain what he was saying better, at least to help me understand. Comment down below. I would love to hear y'all insight and feedback on what was said and what's going on. It's just getting real. I believe I don't know. These Republicans, they ain't playing. It's gonna be interesting to see what the Democrats have to say about this press conference or briefing, whatever you want to call it. But yeah. Let's see what this guy got to say.
So I would just start with this question. What part of Mr. Comer's presentation was Russian disinformation? I mean, never forget what happened on October 19th, 2020, 15 days before the most important election we have in our country. Who's going to be the next president of the United States? 15 days before that, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Clapper, and 49 other people signed a letter that said the following. It is for these reasons that we write to say that the arrival on the U.S. political scene of emails purportedly belonging to Vice President Biden's son, Hunter, has all the classic earmarks of a Russian information operation. They further went on to say, we want to emphasize that we do not know if the emails provided to the New York Post are genuine or not, just that our experience makes us deeply suspicious that the Russian government...
This kind of relays with some videos I've been recently watching involving the Nazis possibly winning the world wars and coming over and invading. They did bring scientists over, brought a lot of immigrants over as well. During that same period of time, there was also a lot of stuff going on in the United States in regards to where is that at? Trash. Oh, there you go. I ain't trash. Feel me? In regards to a lot of things going on in Black America around those same times during those world wars, excuse me. A lot of towns being flooded, etc., burned, and even in part of the war there was a experiments that were taking places on Black soldiers in the war in these countries, Italy, and other countries. Even as far as the Germans, the Black Germans and stuff over there in those countries as well, and how they were treated. Just relaying back to the Jews, talking about the Holocaust. I'm sure there were Black people over there that was involved in the Holocaust as well. Not to say that, they can't be sensitive about that topic, but to act like they were the only people, I feel, that lost grandparents and involved in that situation, it's crazy. You don't hear them speaking about of all the lives lost. It's just usually pertaining to the Jews and the Holocaust. And I feel there were, if Black people are the original Hebrews and Jews, and were in those countries as well, I'm sure they were involved and take place in these camps, if not their own camps. But we'll go into that. Let's see what
played a significant role in this case.
I just wanted to relate that to
the pretext
his involvement with Russia.
This story, again, just days before the most important election we have in our country. So I would ask this, was J.P. Morgan's suspicious activity report to the Treasury Department, was that just a classic earmark of a Russian information operation? How about when Hunter Biden sent the email that Mr. Comer pointed to? Sent the email asking for keys to his new office space, one for himself, one for President Biden, one for his uncle Jim Biden, and one for the emissary for the chairman of the Chinese energy company CFCC. Was that just Russian disinformation operation in place? What part of Mr. Comer's presentation prompted the FBI to go to Facebook and say, hey, you want to be on the lookout for Russian misinformation here this election season? What part of his presentation would prompt that? And I think it's also important to understand, never forget how this story has changed. I mean, think about this. When it started off, it was, no, it's not his laptop. It's not his laptop. Then it was, well, it's his laptop, but remember, it's Russian disinformation and no one did anything wrong. Then it was, well, maybe he did something wrong, but President Biden didn't know about it. And now it's, well, maybe President Biden knew about it and was involved, but it didn't influence his decisions. In fact, yesterday, there was a story in Politico which said that. The story in Politico yesterday, investigating the investigators, dim strategies to launch counterpunch to House GOP. Story in Politico yesterday, here's what I said in there. Quote, no evidence has publicly emerged that Joe Biden's decisions were affected by his son's business dealings. Wow, we've went from it wasn't his laptop and it was Russian disinformation to, oh, whatever was in there didn't affect the president's business dealings, even though he was involved, even though the laptop was real, even though it wasn't disinformation. That's how far we've come.
Got a great point.
So I think I think there are all kinds of questions that need to be answered, and we're determined to get there. Here's some of them that I have. Did the FBI brief Twitter as well? We know they briefed Facebook. We know that had an impact on the election. There's been surveys done where thousands and thousands of voters across this country said it might have impacted their decision in the election in 2020. Did the FBI brief any of the 51 former intelligence officials who signed that letter? Again, that letter that became the pretext for suppressing this story. Who did the briefings? Who briefed Facebook? Here's a name that I think is interesting. Timothy Thibault. So Mr. Thibault, now remember, we just did a report 2 weeks ago.
Into this stuff, into these people as well.
A report that talked about the political influence and the political shenanigans going on in our Justice Department. Based on 14 FBI agents who come talk to our office as whistleblowers.
And talk.
One of those agents said, and this is the term he used, he said, at the highest levels of the FBI, specifically the Washington Field
this
Office,
investigation,
he said it's rotted to the core. Not talking about rank and file agents. They're doing good
as
work.
more information
comes
comes
the top
out.
People at the Washington Field Office. We had another whistleblower who brought up the name Mr. Thibault and said Mr. Thibault is pressuring agents to catalog and categorize cases in a specific way to satisfy this narrative about domestic violence extremism. But what's interesting is a different whistleblower, one who didn't come to our office, a different whistleblower who went to Senator Grassley's office, said that Mr. Thibault, by the way, the head of the special agent in charge at the Washington Field Office, Mr. Thibault is also the guy who suppressed information about the Hunter Biden story in October of 2020. I'd like to talk to Mr. Thibault. In fact, we have asked to talk to Mr. Thibault. Even though he said publicly, I welcome a chance to answer questions, he's refused to come in and talk to us. That's someone we need to talk to. Why has the Biden administration suddenly changed their position on suspicious activity reports? Used to be, Mr. Comer wanted to see him, any member of Congress, any chairman wanted to see him, any ranking member wanted to see him, any member of Congress, any committee, you got a chance to see him. Suddenly, no, we can't see him. I think Mr. Comer and our team at the Oversight Committee would kind of like to see the other 148. They've seen 2. They'd like to see the other 148. So we're committed to getting to the truth, the facts. We think that's what the American people are entitled to. We're gonna try to help Representative Comer and the team here at Oversight with our work on judiciary, but with a specific focus on what the FBI was doing. We know these 51 former intel officials, they got security clearance. How often are they talking to the FBI? Are they talking to the FBI? Who's doing the talking? Who's doing the briefing? Were they briefed? There's so many questions that need answers so we can get to the bottom of this. And the final thing I would say is this. A colleague of mine said this in a committee hearing a few weeks ago, Mr. Gates. He said, when is the FBI going to quit interfering with elections? 2016, they spied on President Trump's campaign. 2018, it was the Mueller investigation.
Like Dave Chappelle just recently said in that SNL monologue, we've been trying to tell y'all about the FBI. We've been trying to tell y'all for years about the FBI, but
in 2020, they suppressed information about the Hunter Biden story. 2022, they raided the president's home 91 days before an election. Maybe it'd be nice.
This shit is going to be crazy.
If the FBI and the Justice Department just stayed out of it and let we the people decide who we think should represent us, who we think should lead us. That's supposed to be how America works. So this is the focus on the Judiciary Committee, the political nature at the Justice Department, and the linkage now to what was happening with the Hunter Biden story. Again, just 15 days before we have a presidential election.
We'll be happy to answer questions. Anyone on the committee will be happy to answer questions. Yes, sir.
Are you also putting the FBI on notice for not bringing, and the Department of Justice on notice for not bringing any charges?
And let me be very clear. Jim said this, but Jim's going to answer that question. The Oversight Committee, we are focused on the bank records moving forward. The Judiciary Committee is going to be focused on that. And Jim's answer that question.
No, we're not putting anybody on notice. We just want to get the truth. I mean, that's why we issued a 1,000-page report 2 weeks ago that talked about. So I've been in Congress a few years now. I've never seen anything like it. 14 agents come talk to us while we're in the minority about how political that place has become. Talking about the purging going on. These are terms they use, not we. Purging going on, purging of agents, the pressure to categorize cases in a political fashion, the putting the threat tag label on moms and dads who show up at school board meetings. We know of over 24 dozen parents who were investigated, no one charged. But think of the chilling impact that has. You show up at some parents' home, you talk to them because she's in the group Moms for Liberty, as an example. You talk to them. Think of the chilling impact that has on other parents. So that's what we're interested in getting to the bottom of. And the only way you can hold people accountable and hopefully stop the behavior is to present it to the country. That's what we got to do. So we're committed to doing it in an aggressive fashion, but in a way that's consistent with the Constitution.
Thank you. We know that the Department of Justice and FBI has been investigating Hunter Biden since 2018. How do you know that these claims that you were laying out in your remarks today and some of the examples that you have?
All right, y'all. We definitely gonna be keeping tabs on what's been going on with this. I haven't came across anything else regarding this. I'm gonna definitely start looking into this. Make sure y'all like, comment, come back, tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend.